Hello viewers, my name is Eemaan Khalil and today I'm going to talk about the factors of production. So the factors of production are the economic resources of land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Whereas some economists say that there are only three factors of production and enterprise is a very special form of labor. Let's just get started and let's just keep in mind that there are four factors of production and they are land, labor, capital, and enterprise. So the first factor of production, land. Land includes the gifts of nature available for production. Land in general terms, we say that it's the land, it's the earth in which crops are grown and on which buildings are built, factories, offices, but that's not the only thing in economics. In economics, land has a wider meaning, a really wider meaning. If you look in economics, land includes everything under it, like coal, oil, natural gas, everything on it, like oceans, rivers, the seas, rainforests, and everything in them, also like fish, wildlife. And yeah, that's it. So land includes every natural resource used in producing goods and services. When we come ahead to labor, labor is all the human effort used in producing goods and services. That human effort can either be physical or mental. So a bank manager, a road sweeper, all contribute to labor. Whereas sometimes when we talk about labor as a factor of production, some economists also say human capital. Well, human capital and labor are definitely not the same thing. Well, what is the human capital? Well, human capital is experience, education, training, skills that labor needs to possess in order to be more productive, to be more efficient, the next factor of production is capital. You can refer to capital as capital goods or producer goods. So when we talk about capital goods, they include offices, buildings, factories, railways, roads, tools. They are human-made goods used in producing goods and services. Now, when we talk about capital goods, sometimes people also confuse them with consumer goods. Well, these are not the same things. These are very different things. These are poles apart. Well, the only difference is that capital goods are not wanted for their own sake. They are wanted for the things that they can produce. Whereas consumer goods are wanted for their own sake. They're wanted for the satisfaction they provide to their owners. So how to distinguish between consumer goods and capital goods? Well, you could look at two things: who the user is and what is the purpose of its use. For instance, a computer. A computer can either be a capital good or consumer good. Now, it be a capital good if it's used by an insurance company to process insurance claims, whereas it will be a consumer good if it's used by a person to play games. So it's for satisfaction, you see. There's a difference between consumer as well as capital goods, or you could also say producer goods. So now let's move ahead to enterprise. So enterprise is a very special factor of production, and people who possess enterprise are called entrepreneurs. They're highly skilled, highly qualified. Enterprise is the risk-bearing and key decision-making in business, and it's not that easy. Well, enterprise, to be honest, is the most mobile factor of production, occupationally as well as geographically. Enterprise is something that people need to possess, entrepreneurs possess it, and enterprise moves wherever people who possess it, entrepreneurs, move. So enterprise is a very special form of labor, economists say, where there are four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Now let's move ahead to the mobility of the factors of production. So when we talk about the mobility of factors of production, we talk about occupational mobility and geographical mobility. When we talk about occupational mobility, that means how capable are the factors of production in order to change, like when it comes to changing use. And when we look at geographical mobility, how capable are they of moving from one location to another location? So when we talk about, for instance, land, most land is occupationally mobile because one land that was used by a farmer to grow crops, and it can be also used to build houses if everything is cleaned up and everything is okay. Whereas land is geographically immobile because you cannot move a section of land from Sri Lanka to India. That's impossible. When we look at labor, now labor can be occupationally mobile, can be geographically mobile, or immobile. It depends. Now, when we look at the geographical mobility of labor, it hinges on the differences in the availability and price of housing in different areas and countries, differences in the educational systems in different areas and countries, family ties. It also depends on the lack of information. Some labor, people sometimes don't have that information in order to move to different areas and countries. And then it's also in the wake of the lack of qualifications and skills when it comes to the occupational immobility of labor. Yeah, it's right that labor is mostly occupationally immobile also, and that can be because of lack of the appropriate skills and qualifications, and it can also be in the wake of lack of information. When we look at the mobility of capital and of geographical as well as occupational. So when we look at the occupational mobility of capital, it hinges on whether that capital good is made for a specific use. Whereas if you look at a delivery van, it can be used by a toy manufacturer to distribute its toys. It can also be used by a book publisher to distribute its books, right? But if you look at the geographical, well, to be honest, occupational and geographical mobility of capital hinge on the type of capital good, And when you look at the geographical mobility of capital, that hinges on, for instance, a dock or a coal mine cannot be moved from one part of the country to another part of the country because it's fixed in one position, whereas a photocopier can be moved from one part of the country to another part of the country. It hinges on the type of capital good when you talk about the mobility of capital, whether geographical or occupational. When we look at enterprise, well, let me tell you one thing, enterprise is the most mobile factor of production, the most mobile of all. So what happens is that enterprise move wherever the people who possess it, entrepreneurs, move. And for instance, I said that entrepreneurs are the ones who bear risks and make the key decisions in a business. So someone who is able to bear the risk and make the key decisions in a business, for instance, in a textile industry, will also be successful in a car industry. And someone who has been successful in operating a business in one country will also be good at operating a business in another country. So enterprise is the most mobile factor of production. Let's look at the quality and quantity of these factors of production. So let's start with land first. That's the first factor of production. So the quality of land, it hinges on the fertilizers used. Are those fertilizers good? Do those fertilizers increase the fertility of land? And then it also hinges on, as I said, land in general, in economics, it has a wider meaning. So it includes the fish also. Are the fish healthy? Are the rivers clean? Are the rivers pure? And the quantity of land, well, that depends on land reclamation or something like, landslides. It also hinges on natural disasters. So the quantity of land with time doesn't change that much, more quality changes. So let's move ahead to labor. When we look at the quality of labor, that hinges on the possession of the appropriate skills and qualifications, and there is also the lack of then information. As I said, information is very necessary for labor to know whether there are job opportunities in different areas of the country or overseas also. The quantity of labor, when we talk about an economy, it hinges on, like the age structure of the economy. Are most of the people young, or the retirement age, the school leaving age, attitude towards working women, and then it's also it hinges on many things. It also hinges on the retirement age, the school leaving age. Well, whereas if the school leaving age is a little higher, it will reduce the quantity of labor, but it will surely increase the quality of labor, because we need the quality of labor to be good, because 10 workers who can make 5 machines or something like that, just 5 workers who are highly qualified will be able to make 10 times more than them. So quality of labor is very, very essential. Let's move ahead to capital. Now the quantity of capital hinges on something called investment. Investment is spending on capital goods by private firms, and when you talk about the total investment, that's called gross investment. So we need to ensure that in an economy, whatever capital goods become outdated or worn out, they must be replaced, and additional capital goods must also be bought, because if an economy possesses good capital goods, not outdated, not worn out, it can move ahead. So it won't be inside the production possibility curve. It will be on the proper line. It will be efficient. It will be able to allocate resources efficiently, because the thing is that capital goods depreciate, depreciation or capital consumption. And when depreciation exceeds gross investment, we get negative net investment. Net investment is the difference between gross investment and depreciation. And when depreciation exceeds net investment, that is called, a gross investment, that is called negative net investment, and that is bad for the economy, because that makes the economy less productive. The productive capacity of the economy reduces, and that is bad. The quality of capital hinges on the capital advancements. If there are more capital advancements, if you look at the North Koreans and Japanese, they are more technology oriented than any other nation on earth, so they're really good in technology. And if you also look at technological advances, what they do is that they increase the efficiency, the productivity of capital, so what happens is that capital goods are able to produce more output as well as better quality of those outputs. So thank you so much for watching.